Welcome back to the Ninja Chuan podcast. My name is Isaac Kamens. Today we were looking at one of the more infamous meetings of pugilists in the martial arts world in the last 100 years. This is the meeting of Wang Shu Jin and Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. So this is one of those stories that's been floating around in the martial arts world for years. And we found a couple of different sources on it, so we're going to take a look at that and examine what happened, whether they actually fought, whether they didn't. So stay tuned. Hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks for listening. You can head over to the Patreon and hear a bonus episode as well as our archive and join for $5 a month. All right, thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and be well.
Today we're going to look at the famous Chinese martial arts master Wang Shu Jin of Taiwan. And all along we've been investigating his story and all his various adventures and perspectives from some of his students. But all along there's this story that follows him around, was his showdown with the American heavyweight champion, one of the greatest fighters maybe of all time, Joe Louis. And there's always whispers of it, right? Like it'll be mentioned that he encountered boxer Joe Louis, or he was either beaten by or beat Joe Louis, or but it's like there's never, what's the actual story? Like it's been really hard to find the facts behind it, in English especially. So it's just this legend of Wang Shu Jin. He's associated with Joe Louis, the Brown Bomber. And yeah, I mean, I suppose maybe first saw it in Chinese boxing. He must have mentioned it in there, or Bagua Journal too, where there's just some
Right.
passing reference.
Some people, like, sometimes they mistakenly would, there's the picture of, I think it's
Right.
Robert Smith punching him. And for a while, people were like, who's it? Who's this punching him? Is it
right, American heavyweight
some
Robert Smith?
Yeah.
Right, confusing him with Joe Louis.
Right, with an actual.
Right.
Right. So there's that.
And I mean, and he was known for taking on servicemen from other countries, Japan especially, but Americans. There's plenty of stories of him, Americans and Europeans, testing him out.
I mean, that's kind of how he got popular, was doing those type of things.
Those invulnerability demonstrations. But also sounds like, especially that one with Chiba Sensei, he'd come after you as well. Like there was plenty of offense as well as defense.
From what I understand, those were much tamer than the ones when he was young. When he was young, it was, he'd whoop your ass, like,
yeah,
he beat you into the ground.
I mean, there's repeated ones that said he broke bones at karate challenges
so
back in the day.
By the time he's in his 60s or whatever, he's just kind of bouncing people around,
right,
and then letting them hit him and kind of laughing it off. He's not as much fire in the belly, but
right. And I mean, there are legends of him in his earliest years of participating in fighting challenges where they were sort of, what would you call them, matches where death is allowed, and you could
basically
maim people severely in fights taking place in the 1930s and so on.
Yeah,
30s and 40s, when shit was just, there were no lawyers. It's just like you could fight at any level you want, but you couldn't get any good health care probably.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's tough times.
Depends on how and where, but I mean, sometimes they had to sign contracts, and it was a whole,
Oh yeah, true.
The whole thing
for a public match,
right? But then there was also
private, yeah.
Then there was also just some dude shows up at your dojo and you flatten him,
right? But that is a trope. You got to sign the paper that says, "I swear not to hold you responsible if I'm killed in the match." So
yeah.
That's classic. And then there's even rumors of, say, religious organizations, or, there's of course inter-gang fights and within gangs where guys fight to the death, but there's also in religious contexts where more tongs or secret societies or religious events, or sometimes ritualized fighting of some kind for testing yourself and your courage and strength is said to take place. So anyways, so we've been hinting at the battle. So one thing we stumbled across here, somebody posted a newspaper clipping, and I believe it just said archived newspaper headline, December 11th, 1951. So that, just to put that in context, like Wang Shu Jin and these other uh, Chinese nationals are showing up in Taiwan and 2 years prior to this. So like the coming of the Kuomintang and the ROC to Taiwan is a very new event. It's only been 2 years since they've arrived. And so this newspaper starts off like this. Headline: Formosan prepares for Lewis's coming. Taipei, Formosa, December 11th. And so now the place is called Formosa at the time. This isn't even Taipei, Taiwan. This is Taipei, Formosa in the sense that that's what it was called under Japanese rule, right? So like they're this in Formosa, this is the government at the time still considered themselves the ruler of all China. So they didn't call this the Republic of China or whatever. This is just in their mind, Formosa is just they just got it back from Japan, basically. It's more like a military base or something. It's an interesting political moment. So back to the article. Okay, so Formosan prepares for Lewis's coming. Taipei, Formosa, December 11th. Wang Shu Jin gave his stomach muscles a final workout today. Joe Louis is coming to town tomorrow, and Wang is going to ask the former world heavyweight boxing champion to belt him in the solar plexus as hard as he can. Dang. So
Right. So
yeah,
that's
give his
basically,
stomach muscles a workout, one
yeah,
final workout.
just
Wang, 47-year-old expert in Chinese style boxing, expressed confidence he would be able to withstand the blow. The Brown Bomber will put on an exhibition at the Armed Forces Stadium in Taipei.
he's only 47, huh?
Yeah,
Wow. So he's
that's
still,
that's well younger than us.
yeah,
But still at 47, he's over the top, right? Like Joe
right.
Louis is. Well, now where's Joe Louis in his career? Let's look at Joe Louis real quick. So he's born 1914.
Yeah, he's a bit younger. He's only in his
So
30s.
yeah, but he's still done with his professional
Right,
career by
right,
then,
right.
right? So he's on exhibition tours now. So he's an American professional boxer who competed from 1934 to 51. Okay, so he was still competing.
So it's the end of his career.
Yeah. Well, so maybe he had just retired because yeah, in so this is December 11th of 51. So that would be yeah, so he would have just retired at that point, I guess. He reigned as the heavyweight champion from 1937 until his temporary retirement in 1949. He was victorious in 25 consecutive title defenses, a record for all weight classes. Lewis has the longest single reign as champion of any boxer in history. Wow. I didn't even realize that. He was the heavyweight champion for 12 years. That's unheard of. Um, yeah. I've always heard his name, and sometimes you'll go to an old restaurant. Like there's one in Emeryville where there's a big picture of his fight, a famous fight he had. I think he fights what's the
Yeah.
guy's name?
Everybody is
Schmeling, I think. Yeah,
just
I mean it's Schmeling. That's the famous
right.
German guy. So
Max
there's
Melling, yeah.
and so there's a whole it's a whole there's all these little tiny little photos, old black and white photos in a ring around a picture of them and them having their fight. And so
Nice.
it gives you like views of the different blows of the fight or what were the big moments of the fight.
Right.
That's super cool. That's at the townhouse. I wish I had a picture too of that because that's pretty good. Anyways, yeah, I mean, this guy is beyond a legend, This is legit. So the
Yeah.
idea that Wang Shijing's going to take him on, that's no joke.
Well, again, I mean, I think it's that thing of somebody clearly had the I think it was that Colonel guy, but
Mm,
had the whatever stroke of genius to be like, hey, let's get these two guys in a ring together and see what happens.
totally. Yeah, and politically, like maybe this was a way to get Formosa into the mind of Americans a little bit, and vice versa. Like to help build this connection between our two countries. We're gonna bring Joe Louis over here to, these cross cultural, like the ping pong with the PRC back in the 70s, maybe when Nixon opened up China and stuff. You got to have these events, these cultural events that keep the people interacting.
Yeah, all right. So the guy's name is William Curtis Chase, and that's who organized this whole thing. And he was part of he was a general in the U.S. Army, and he's part of this
Mm,
like I think maybe the same group that eventually sent Robert Smith because they were sort of it was like a goodwill, quote unquote, like trying to make connections with the government in what is now Taiwan. And just sort of, he was like the PR branch of it or whatever, right? So there was this whole thing, so
yeah, you want to keep the foreign engagement department. Yeah.
and to make it look like I don't know that there's a positive element to what is essentially colonialization,
Right.
right? I mean, so you're
Well,
like,
yeah. I mean,
like
yeah, very complicated because there's all the strains of politics in Taiwan of like the Japanese invasion, the native Taiwanese, the coming of the KMT,
right,
the, it's just, oh my God, the
but I
communist
mean, what I'm saying is
infiltration.
like
Like,
when you get two boxers in a ring, right? There's a piece of it where it's like, look at the way our two nations can,
yeah, we're on
whatever.
the same
Yeah,
page here.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's that.
Win or lose, you're getting to fight at this highest level. So,
And it's like we shake hands at the end, and
yeah,
it's
we play
not.
the American and the ROC anthem before the
Yeah, yeah,
fight.
yeah, yeah.
And you don't do that with your enemy. You don't have
It's
a
Rocky versus
exhibition with the
it's
bad guys, right?
it's Rocky versus whatever his name was, the Dolph Lundgren
The
character,
Dolph
right?
Lundgren.
Yeah, that sort of like
Yeah. All right. So now the second thing we've been able to find is this anonymous article I found. So I'm going to read this. Newspaper headlines suggest that world champion Joe Louis's visit to Taiwan on December 14th, 1951, was the first world-renowned athlete to visit the island. Joe Louis, born 1914, died 1981, who defended his title 25 times, was a boxing legend. The year of Lewis's visit, the Central Daily News referred to him as the former heavyweight champion of the world. This was because earlier that year, on October 26, Lewis's championship reign, which included 66 wins and only 3 losses, had ended, and he was announced his retirement after his defeat against Rocky Marciano, who was the inspiration for the character Rocky. Being invited to perform for the troops only 2 months after his loss shows the endearing relationship Joe had with all of America. So there you go. He had retired a few months before he came to Taiwan.
hmm.
So that evening, so it's December 14th, that evening before a huge crowd at a military base, Lewis went 6 rounds with 4 different opponents. So he fought 4 different fights in one night, but
Yeah.
only a round or two each.
Still.
Uh, Probably didn't go so well for the locals. It says amongst them was the Taiwan's ROC Navy representative who was floored by a left hook. This okay, so that's the only one they talk about the fights. So he must have won the other fights as well, or just go one round with a couple different
Hmm.
youngsters. All the gathering of the high officials were there as spectators, including Major General William Curtis Chase, who told the crowd of Lewis's prior military service and exhibitions. So there were speeches made. Oh, wow. Taiwan's deputy director of political department made a speech saying that if the counteroffensive against the PRC is successful, they'll invite the champion to come back with them to China. So Lewis accepted honorary gifts from various leaders in Taiwan and was introduced to a Qigong master, Wang Shu Jin, who was reported to have a stomach comparable to steel. He was given the opportunity to test this claim, but Joe misunderstood the situation and would ended up leaving the ring after the exhibition.
Well, so
Dang.
so they were just like, what are we doing? Oh, okay, never mind.
Yeah, he's walking out, and Wang Chijin's up in the ring, like, "Hey, where'd he go? Dang, so close. They were about to throw down. Instead,
Right.
classic event. The great match is about to happen, but then, nah, didn't happen.
Yeah.
But here's a little bit more about the fights of Joe Louis. So it said, but Taiwan's boxing community talked enthusiastically about Joe's performance against Zhang Lupo, But the result was expected, as Joe was a heavyweight while Zhang was a middleweight. So he's the one who got knocked out with the left hook. Another
Hmm.
opponent was Japanese boxer uh, Yoshishi Shirai, who had sometime before that defeated an American champion to become the flyweight champion. So Japan's already into the boxing game here.
Yeah.
Asia's champions at the time were competitive mostly in the lower weight classes, so the successes of these exhibitions was not entirely important. However, Zhang Lupo would not be discouraged by his performance, and in 1959 he would win a gold medal at the Asian Games in Tokyo, and then reach the quarterfinals in the Rome Olympics in 1960. He
Right.
was Taiwan's first generation of world-class boxers. He made it one round with Joe Louis. That's something. Shit. Now we're going to turn to our final piece of evidence about the Joe Louis Wang Shu Jin fight from the May 2007 newsletter of the Chenming Clarion, the newsletter of the Israel Tai Chi Center, published in 2007, where Wang Shu Jin student Wang Fulai, who we've mentioned a few times, is one of the leading students who carries on the school in Taiwan. He gives the definitive account of Wang Shu Jin's fight with Joe Louis. And so, since he's a student of Wang Shu Jin, you got to take his word for it. Like if it's coming from him directly, who else are you going to ask, right? I mean, this is one of his closest students.
I mean, you would assume he's got quote unquote Wong's version of the story,
Right,
right?
right. You'd think, he'd be sticking up for his side, obviously. So it says Joe Louis, the American heavyweight boxing champion, arrived in Taiwan in 1954 as part of a world tour and invited Chinese martial artists to fight him. Legend had it that Joe Louis could kill a cow with his fist, so many martial artists were afraid of him and did not dare accept his challenge. This embarrassed the government, since many government officials were Master Wang Shu Jin students. A messenger was sent to Taichung to invite him to Taipei. To the relief of the members of the government, he did not hesitate to answer the call and declared that he was not afraid. The fight was to take place in the basketball stadium of an army base. So this reminds me of how they would have these challenge matches down in Taichung, or his friend Zhang Jianfeng would call Wang Shujin and say, "Hey, come up to Taipei. We've got some fights to have. We got some challenge matches to take." And so they would help each other in these fights. And so the government now has to turn to Wang Shujin. They're, "Oh, please come, come save us."
I mean, he
And
did
he's,
have a
"Let's do this
reputation, you know.
shit." He's like, "Are you want to roll? I'm coming."
Yeah.
So who else are you going to turn to but
I,
Master Wang Shujin, who's like the
does it?
challenge guy supreme? All right. So when Joe Louis told the story of the impression Grandmaster Wang Shujin made on him as he strode across the court, he described him as large but agile, light on his feet, and moving with confidence. The conversation between them took place through an interpreter. Oh, so this is Joe Louis's story of how he met Wang Shujin,
Hmm.
or
Okay.
supposedly. So an interpreter is telling Chinese people what the English, speaker is saying. And then the Chinese guy is now speaking to the translator to back into English. All right. Grandmaster Wang Shujin said to Joe Louis, "I have heard that you can kill a cow with one punch. I'll allow you to punch me 3 times and I'll punch you once."
Hmm.
Oh, dang. I'll only need to punch you once. Joe Louis's manager asked Grandmaster Wang Shujin, "Aren't you afraid? You know he can kill a cow with one punch, right? And you're going to allow him 3?" Grandmaster Wang Shujin replied, "If I were afraid, I would not be here."
Mm-hmm.
The insurance company refused to insure the fight. They explained that Chinese
Ah.
martial arts are very mysterious, and many Chinese martial artists hide their power, so it's impossible to know how good they really are.
Hmm.
Smart insurance company.
Yeah, they were like, I don't know. We don't want our guy getting
This,
hurt.
so they refused to insure Joe Louis against Wang Shujin.
I mean, that sounds like probably the most realistic way that, because in that other story they said that, they didn't understand what was going on or whatever, right?
Oh,
So
maybe
why
that
did,
was the misunderstanding. Is the
right?
insurance guy's like, "Wait, no, we can't cover
Whoa,
this."
some
Everybody, wait, whoa,
all of
whoa.
a sudden, some dude in a suit's like, nope, we got that,
The lawyers say
yeah,
we
yeah.
can't do this.
Basically, yeah, the lawyers are like, we can't, no way.
You let this crazy martial arts guy punch you?
We're not gonna waste our
Ruin the world
investment.
tour, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
meanwhile, he just fought 4 competent boxers and knocked all 4 of them out. Now, but they won't insure it against this old fat
right.
Chinese guy.
This, well, obviously, I mean, not obviously, but possibly somebody was like, no, no, this guy's for real.
Yeah,
Like,
right. Well, that's the other possibility.
right? Like,
Somebody was like, "Hey, wait a minute. I know about this guy."
yeah, yeah, yeah. You don't want this guy hitting you. You know,
Right.
like,
That's right. Don't give him an open shot. If you don't get to defend yourself,
right.
that being the number one rule of boxing, defend yourself at all times.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Well, and the idea of like, I mean, I guess the modern equivalent would be like those slap fights or something,
Oh, yeah. Just stand there and let him just
where
clap.
where you're not doing anything to defend yourself. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna take this.
So embarrassing. That's so wrong. But that's true. It's a time honored thing to do. Yeah, I'll let you hit me. You get your first shot, then I'll take mine.
Right. But it's not really like let's fight. It's like, especially if the guy waddles out there and he's like built like Wang Shu Jin, you're like, I don't know,
Suspenders
man.
on. He's kind of.
Just built like a fucking truck.
Well, it reminds me of an old story I heard about, Wang Shu Jin, one of his good buddies is this guy in Taipei, the founder of the Yizhang school, Zhang Junfeng.
Right.
And I remember a bunch of times, and it was in that article too, but Luo Deshi would often say, like, Zhang Junfeng said, I don't let anybody hit my body. So if you hit me, I'm going to go off. Like, don't even, he said, my body's soft like tofu. Don't touch me. Or something. He had a slogan he would say. And I think his buddy was Wang Shu Jin, who's famous for taking hits.
Right.
So maybe people were coming to Zhang Jianfeng saying, hey, can you do what he does? I want to try punching you. He's like, what?
Right.
Fuck that.
Yeah,
He said, if
yeah,
you touch him, he would just clobber your ass. Wham! So
yeah.
don't even fuck with me. So that's
Yeah.
funny. He had a pretty fearsome reputation, but Wang Shu Jin, to let the other guy punch first, there's something
Well,
impressive about that.
yeah, I mean that's a common sort of parlor trick, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
right? Amongst especially
Strong
Icho,
man.
a lot of Ichun guys
Mm.
are into that sort of,
Hmm.
they because they do get very strong. So, it's like I went to a Qigong demonstration one time and, one of the guys was, getting punched or
True, yeah. Or like the guy lays down and they hit him with a block of wood or
right, or
sledgehammer
they
or
bounce
something.
the uh
Yeah,
what is it
this
called?
is a
Sledgehammer off the guy's
yeah, it's
belly
old
or whatever.
school approach.
People they understood that people will go to a thing where it's like, oh, let's watch if you're in Japan, for example, let's watch a karate master punch a kung fu master. Like, sure, that sounds cool, like it's the
Yeah,
kind of thing people would pay to see, sort of like again, like a crossover event.
right, right. A major crossover event. All right, so let's finish this article here.
Because that is always the big question, right? With martial arts is like what martial art is best, right? Or, what fighting style will defeat what fighting style. And
Yeah, which style can beat who?
so like, you got this guy who's famous for punching really hard and a guy who's famous for being able to take punches, right? So it's like the perfect matchup. Who doesn't want to see that? It's like
Right,
uh Houdini was famous for
right.
taking
Yeah, we've talked
punches.
about him. Yeah,
And
exactly.
also how he died because somebody just came up and went blam when he wasn't
Yeah.
expecting it and killed him.
Yeah, it does seem
So
like to make
uh,
your living off that would definitely
yeah,
not be
but it's
easy.
that it's one of those things that people can develop the ability to take a punch, and that's something people will watch.
So next, Joe Louis was under pressure. He found himself in an embarrassing situation. He had issued a challenge to the Chinese martial arts, and now he wanted to cancel? The Taiwanese government was willing to cancel, but the crowd was not. They refused
Uh-oh.
to leave the stadium and demanded a fight.
Fight, fight, fight.
Shouts of, what are you scared of? He's allowing you to punch him 3 times, and he
uh,
will punch you only once. So they tried to escape, but the crowd
that's
just held them in there. Like,
that's
we ain't
funny.
letting, we paid our money. Where the hell's, this is the fight we want to really see.
Right, right, right.
Ah, see, the crowd knows what's up. The more people know about something, the more frightened they are. More frightened than people who know nothing. Grandmaster Wang Shu Jin saw that Joe Louis had a back against the wall and tried to help him. He suggested, I'll allow you to punch me once and I won't punch you at all.
Damn.
That's
Well,
quite an offer.
that's
So that might get the insurance guys off his back at that
mhm.
point. Like, hey, I'm not going to punch him. He's just going to punch me. They're like, well, we don't care if you go down. So
Right, right, right.
Grandmaster Wang Shijin replied, oh, no, it's here, sorry. So I won't punch you at all. Joe Louis and his agent asked, a genuine punch or a fake punch? Grandmaster Wang Shu Jin replied, a genuine punch. How can you measure my capabilities if you don't give me a genuine punch? How would you know? Besides anything else, I want to feel the power of a punch that can kill a cow.
Damn.
Ooh.
All right.
See, this is the story. This is the version of the story that I'm seeing as the most realistic one. Let's go. Like, if it's demanding a genuine punch.
Right.
All right, here we go. Joe Louis put on a glove and punched Grandmaster Wang Shu Jin once. Wang Shu Jin's expression did not change. Surprised, Joe Louis said to his agent, just as well we did not agree to the original challenge and settled for this.
All right.
Every newspaper reported this.
Ah, interesting.
So that's it. He used a glove, so it wasn't a bare-fisted punch.
All right.
But boom! And then Joe Louis is like, damn, I'm glad we didn't sign that original contract. Oof, got away with that. I
Yeah.
wonder if that's what Joe Lewis's side would say.
I don't know. I mean, that sounds pretty. I mean, again, it sounds plausible.
Hey,
That
I like this version.
you still got the photo op, but it didn't involve anybody
Right.
actually getting injured or, you know.
Yeah. I mean, the way it's portrayed here, it's like Joe Louis is like, phew, I got away with one. But it's more like, I'm glad we didn't risk any legal dangers.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's, you know, it sounds like there was some other stuff involved, and people were like, no, no, no. And then, they had to do something, so they came
Right.
up
They
with
had to shut the crowd up somehow.
they
Yeah.
they came up with an alternative way to
Boom. For both sides to win.
to settle it. Yeah, yeah,
Right. Because Joe Louis doesn't have to get punched, and Wang Shujin rolled with it no problem.
Right.
Boom. So he took a punch from the Brown Bomber. There you have it. He said, every newspaper reported this. Grandmaster Wang retreated into modesty and did not make an issue of the whole event, earning an even greater respect from the public. Joe
There you
Louis
go.
was very impressed by Chinese martial arts, and by Grandmaster Wang Shujin, they became friends. And this is only one of many stories. After this event, many more government officials and martial artists tried to be seen with Wang Shujin, but he continued to shun publicity in public gatherings.
Yeah.
So there you have it, the end of the Joe Louis story.
All right. The
So
Brown
that sounds
Bomber
like
versus
it wasn't a real fight, but they did actually meet. So,
All right, man. Well,
all right, well, that's
wraps
the
it
end of
up.
the story for now.
Okay.
We'll keep an eye out for any more details down the road, and just keep everyone posted.
All right, bro.
All right,
Sounds
bud.
good. Talk to you soon.
All right, bro.
All right.
Bye.
Later. Hey, folks. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Just a reminder, check out the Facebook and Instagram pages. And if you want to join for the Patreon to hear the bonus episode, as well as our entire archive of interviews, etc., you can go over there and join for $5 a month. Gets you the basic membership. $10 a month gives you the entire archive. All right. Thanks for listening. Take care of yourselves and be well.